There is simply no evidence that this variant escapes the vaccine in any way whatsoever. And Matt Hancock did say yesterday that in Bolton, where people have, again, a handful of people have been hospitalised, that they hadn't been vaccinated. So, I mean, the sensible thing is to speed up the vaccination process. Now, 20 million people in this country have already had 2 doses. They will be the most vulnerable, the most elderly, the people most likely to be hospitalised or to die. All over 50s are getting their second jab after 8 weeks, not 12 weeks. I know this. I got the text message only on yesterday to tell me I could get my jab, and thinking, hold on a minute, that's not due yet. I'm sure that's, and realised it was only after 8 weeks. All over 35s by the end of this week will be offered the jab, and they are basically going door to door in places like Bolton, where they are seeing this surge in cases, to try and tackle this. There is really no need for there to be this complete mad panic and sort of calls to end restrictions being eased at all, is it? Based on any facts whatsoever.
I think the problem for the government, though, is when you play the politics of fear, it's very hard to reverse that. When you spend a year terrorising a nation, they're going to feel even more terrorised when any new development happens. Because as you say, I think people have this image that in Bolton and Blackburn that you've got hospital wards filling up and all the rest of it. There's 18 people in hospital with COVID in Bolton, and the vast majority of those people are vulnerable people who refuse the jab, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't see why everyone else's lives have to be restricted because some people don't want to take the jab. Not my problem. I mean, I'm very sympathetic, and I hope they survive, and I'm really sorry for their families and for them. Not my problem.
And again, the government going out of its way to find those hesitant people to try to convince them, not to compel them, but to try to convince them, is a perfectly legitimate thing to do. But again, to try and even suggest that things should slow down in the unlocking because of all of this is for the birds, frankly. But I think it just comes down to that point. They've been playing with fear for so long, it's very hard to reverse that.
I did actually text a very senior member of the government yesterday to say, well, you created this. You created a monster in SAGE and NerveTag and SPIM and all the other different organisations with the experts on, some of whom are virologists, some of whom are computer modelists, some of whom are behavioural scientists. But you basically outsourced all of your decision making to the scientists. Well, the scientists say this, the scientists say that. So what can we do? The government now can't do anything unless the scientists say it's okay. They have created a monster that is now out of control, that is constantly going to be saying, but people might die. Yes, as we ease and as we go back to people living a normal life, more people will die of COVID. Yes, and that is part of the deal. The vaccine is our route out. The only people who don't trust the vaccine are the scientists and the government. It's quite bizarre. The vaccine works. We know it works. You can see it in the data all over the world where the vaccine's rolled out. All the different, I mean, not so much the Chinese or the Russian vaccines, to be fair, but the vaccines we've got in the West. Oh, I think something's beeping away there. But we know that, and the point is, we have the vaccine. That's as much safety as we can get. And then we go back to normal life. And just as with flu and other diseases that can spread, we are going to see people who will die of COVID. And that's very sad, but that's how life is. Life has risks to it. And we've got this whole bunch of people on stage who want to have, let's face it, they're going for zero COVID. I mean, that's what they think. They think there should be no one who dies or ever even gets a case of COVID. And we can't live like that.
Not at all. And if the vaccines can't get us out of this, then literally nothing can.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to stress here, is the fact that this was all presented to us as the light at the end of the tunnel, that this would justify lockdown in essence. And the fact that you've got so many leading scientists now trying to suggest that it's part of the solution but not the whole thing, I think does just speak to the fact that we're in that slightly ridiculous position where, for various different reasons, partly because of a sense in which they feel that they got it wrong at the start of this crisis and all the rest of it. They're almost trying to overcompensate by being so authoritarian as to suggest this should go on indefinitely. But we just can't carry on living like this. It's ridiculous.
No, exactly. I mean, again, some of the predictions from the Warwick modelling team, I mean, these are the people who, by the way, predicted that, everyone would be dying in the streets en masse, 10,000 a day or something ridiculous. If we actually had, 10,000 people admitted to hospital a day in mid-July, if, just from like having kids going back to school, there was no peak whatsoever after kids went back to school. There was there was a plateau of cases. as opposed to continuing to go down. But, we were basically testing millions of children every day. What a surprise. But then it carried on going down. And again, they're predicting that we're going to have a surge in cases as we come out here. Again, there may be cases going up, but there won't be increased hospitalisations and deaths because people have had the vaccine. 20 million have had two doses. But the assumptions they make in terms of they assume that the vaccines have much lower efficacy than they actually do have. And some of the stuff in the latest Warwick modelling for what's going to happen as a result of this variant, they're saying if this variant is, as they suspect, 50% more transmissible, again, do we really know that? That's a if, could have. Is that 10,000 people could be admitted to hospital each day in mid-July if we proceed with the easing today and the easing on the 21st of June. Some of their assumptions are so ridiculous and would actually require something like, was it 60% of the UK population to be infected in 1 week? I mean, it's just laughable nonsense assumptions that frankly, a GCSE math student wouldn't make those mistakes. And yet these are being used to try and guide the government's hand and to tell people, yes, well, you can go and visit your grandma and hug her now, or you can possibly travel abroad, but you shouldn't. And it's all about control.
It is, and again, it's just playing on fear. I mean, this 10,000 deaths a day figure and or 10,000 hospitalisations, etc. Considering the vaccines, considering where we are, considering what we've known previously in terms of at the peak of the crisis that we saw, you didn't see numbers like this. I think
the fact that we had no level of protection. We had like 1,400 on one day. I mean, if you have to go on the 7-day rolling average, because in terms of actually how many people actually had it, that's awful. That was the peak. But bearing in mind, 1,700 people in winter die every day of other things.
And it's that question of, it feels like, especially when modelling gets it really out of whack, it's just kind of quietly shelved. It's not really talked about.
Isn't it?
Again, the schools thing was another key thing. We were told this was going to be a huge problem. It turned out not to have any meaningful impact. And I think, again, we're just into a situation where, because the government kind of evacuated the field, if you like, in relation to making these decisions, because it outsourced its authority to these experts, again, it's quite difficult to undo that as well. And you can see a tussle starting again between Boris Johnson and his advisors, but it's long overdue, and it feels like it's only going to be partial given how much power they've been given throughout.
Someone has got to send a memo to the Prime Minister that he's the one in charge. He's the one who was elected by the people of this country, and it's up to him to make those decisions. And I mean, just at some point he's going to have to seize control back and own these decisions and stop cowering to these fearmongers. 6:57 is the time. 6:47. Sorry, don't worry, you're not late for work. We'll look at the front page. We're also going to be talking at the horrific anti-Semitic abuse on Britain's streets, which we heard yesterday. Absolutely shocking scenes. That's up next. This is Talk Radio.
Online, on DAB, and on the Talk Radio app. Talk Radio.
In an uncertain world, there's one thing you can always rely on. If your BMW needs a helping hand to get back to its best, your local BMW centre is here to help. Now with 20% off selected services when you book online. Take advantage of innovative ways to get your car the care it needs, including genuine BMW parts that come with a 2-year warranty and a handover that follows the latest government guidelines. You can be certain that your car is ready for the road ahead. Search BMW Service to book at your local BMW centre today. T's and C's apply. Participating retailers only. Offer for online pre-booked and listed services completed by 18th of June. Not applicable for bookings made by mobile app. Offer may be withdrawn at any time.
The Wi-Fi's down. Wi-Fi down!
This is broadband rage. It happens when your internet drops out and the red mist descends. Why suffer like this? Get the UK's first unbreakable Wi-Fi. Only BT's new hybrid home broadband is backed up by EE's mobile network. One day all broadband will be like this.
4G coverage required. 4G connection takes up to 175 seconds. Verify bt.com/verifyhybrid.
Sometimes running a business can feel like swimming upstream in Siberia.
Welcome.
With a bear clinging onto your leg. But Xero online accounting software can help you manage the ins and outs of your finances in real time, so you can keep them running smoothly. Soon it will feel more like you're going down a water slide.
Your turn.
In a rubber ring. Or being serenaded by a string quartet. Search Xero with an X, because healthy business is beautiful business.
With 8K picture quality, you'll get the thrill of sport in your home. The Samsung Neo QLED TV. Shop now at John Lewis. Subject to availability.
It could be a first-timer or a long-timer or a once-in-a-whiler. It could be a little or a lot. It could be the ticket under your fridge magnet. It could be someone with your first name and last and middle. It could be you. This Saturday's £20 million Lotto jackpot must be won. Or thousands of you will win a share of the jackpot. Play on app, online and in-store. Lotto from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Account terms, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over.
Just for the fun of it. Just for the taste of it.
Diet Coke. Just because.
Jack here's gleefully crawling at 8 miles per hour, overjoyed with every muddy nugget tumbling from the tractor in front, like little manure-scented gifts from rolling pastures. Jack's full of glee because he just got his nearly new car at an unbeatable price from Motorpoint. He bought it online with contactless collection at his local store. They do free home delivery too. And it came with a 14-day money-back guarantee. So he's driving away one satisfied customer. For car buying made easy, visit motorpoint.co.uk. See online for price promise details.
Talk Radio. Traffic and travel.
On Merseyside, the Queensway Birkenhead Tunnel is closed for an investigation. On the M25 in Essex, there's a queue anti-clockwise partway between junctions 27 and 26 from the M11 to Waltham Abbey. There's a reduced rail service from Wales and the west of England into and out of Paddington Station in London again today because of ongoing safety checks. Train services are suspended between Weybridge and Virginia Water because of a signalling problem, and Manchester Metrolink not running between Trafford Bar and St Peter's Square or on the Eccles or Trafford Park lines because of overrunning engineering work. I'm Russell Holding.
You've had the idea for months now. You've told your friends about it. Your mum, your mum's mum, your yoga instructor. You've worked out every detail, the name, the logo. Now it's time to Squarespace it. But you don't know a thing about websites? Squarespace it. Worried about it looking good? That's what templates are for. Squarespace it. But you need more than a site? Need a whole brand, social campaigns, promotion, the whole lot? Squarespace it. It's that easy. Got an idea? Squarespace it. Use offer code Squarespace it for 10% off your first website.
Across the UK.
Online and on DAB+.
Mark Dolan on Talk Radio.
Right now, the message is clear. Crime pays.
Breaking news, big guests and live debate across the UK.
It's becoming abundantly clear that lockdowns should never have happened.
Mark Dolan.
Weekday afternoons from 4
on Talk Radio. Talk Radio. Julia Hartley-Brewer at breakfast on Talk Radio.
Morning to you. This is Talk Radio Breakfast with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Tom Slater, Deputy Editor of Spiked Online, is with me. Let's go through the front pages. The Sun, happy Monday, folks. Get the shots in. Vaccines do work on India strain, they point out. And drinkers joy as pubs open inside. Clever little headline there. The Daily Mirror, happy hours for now. Oh. Doom and gloom as usual. At last it's Freedom Day, though. Daily Mail, don't blow it, Britain. The Telegraph, play your part to beat variant. PM urges public. But also Palestinian activist slurs condemned. We'll talk about that in a moment. And rape victims may give evidence before trial to avoid facing court. The Times, holiday plans thrown into chaos as Britons were urged by Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, to stay away from amber list countries such as Spain, Italy, France and Greece. Sorry, it is legal to go to those countries. You just have to quarantine on the way back, isolate on the way back. If you want to go, you should go. And also jabs offered to teenagers at Indian variant hotspot. This, of course, in Bolton. The Guardian, Britain opens up, but experts warn public to stick to meeting outdoors. Yes, yes. The Eye, new freedoms come with a health warning. Daily Express, enjoy freedom with a heavy dose of caution. That's the quote from the Prime Minister. And the Daily Star, we love talking Pollux. Culture vulture Brits go mad for the theatre and even art galleries in it, they say. Tom, again, we were talking a little bit earlier. I mean, there's a lot of doom and gloom in those headlines, what should be a really exciting, happy day. But it still does blow my mind that we're having conversations about being allowed to meet up indoors with people. The reality is, who are we kidding? Millions of people have been meeting up indoors, and especially with the miserable weather lately. People have lots of good intentions. They're meeting in their gardens, but have been meeting indoors. The expectation there's going to be some big explosion in cases now, when actually it's just going to be an extension of what people are already doing, I find rather unlikely.
No, it's all very strange, but as you say, it's a kind of slightly surreal as far as the idea that people haven't been breaking and bending the rules so far. Even people who are, take coronavirus very seriously, they've just started to make their own judgments. They see that themselves and their elderly relatives are vaccinated, and they've started to, even dare I say it, be hugging for a long time before they've been allowed to today. And I just think
I never stopped hugging. I never stopped hugging. People who I knew were like me, people who'd had COVID, were not at risk. No, I never stopped hugging.
I mean, I struggle to think of who are these people who've been following the rules to the letter all the way through. But at the same time,
I do know. My in-laws, 100%, to the letter.
And it's such a strange way to live. But I mean, it's a strange one because on the one hand, you think a lot of people have been making their own judgments throughout, and particularly over the past couple of months, as the threat really has disappeared, frankly. But at the same time, there is something very infantilized about a society in which you have ministers like Matt Hancock go on and talk about hug your relatives, but maybe do it outside, maybe do it for a sheet, whatever it is that they might suggest next.
I think that's what he does anyway.
That's a very strange position to be in. Maybe so.
You can just imagine his family going, no, it's all right, you don't need to come and hug us, thanks, Matt, it's okay. We're good. We're good. Yeah, no, but exactly. But it's very, very strange. Foreign travel, foreign travel is finally allowed. But again, the health secretary saying, oh, but you shouldn't. I mean, people jetting off to Portugal today, can I just say, I'm so jealous. Have a wonderful time. Please send us photos of you on the beach with cocktails and enjoy it. And so also, crucially, so many people able to visit their families. They've not been legally allowed to leave the country to visit their loved ones.
This is something that always got missed in that discussion, which it was just suggested that people were selfish, that wanted to have, a week in the sun and all the rest of it. A very large proportion of people in this country have foreign-born parents, have extended family overseas, and considering not only the lockdowns here, but also the restrictions in various other countries, a combination of that means often they haven't seen their families at all over this process. So just the kind of inhumanity of this whole policy is something which isn't really looked at too much because we only really see it in those narrow terms of why do you idiots want to go and tan on a beach? But
even for the less important stuff, which is going to go and sit on the beach, people have a right to go on holiday. I'm sorry, it may not be a fundamental human right, but a lot of people who are sitting there who've been sitting in their homes doing very little for the last year are going, well, why do you need a holiday? You know what? Millions of people have been slogging their guts out, working really hard and would like to go on holiday. Sorry, I know people who've been working in COVID wards who want to go on foreign holidays. These are not mutually incompatible things. Just finding, and we were going to talk about this in a lot more detail. We've had lots of pro-Palestinian demonstrations in London over the weekend. Some pro-Palestinian, some though, with just blatantly anti-Semitic imagery being shown. Police taking no action against this whatsoever. BBC, by the way, full of coverage of these demonstrations. Barely anything ever mentioned about the far, far larger anti-lockdown marches which happen periodically. But also we then had that absolutely foul convoy of at least six cars, that's what was on camera, shouting the most horrific, racist, anti-Semitic, misogynist abuse, talking about raping and killing Jews and raping Jewish daughters. Driving down a street in London called Finchley Road, a couple of other streets nearby. I know this area well. It's a very, very, very strong Jewish population and Jewish community there. That would have been deliberately chosen. This convoy wasn't just passing through. They were driving all the way around, shouting this abuse on loud hailers. Took the police hours after they had notified about this to track these cars down and to finally make 4 arrests. But what did you make of that? Because I thought the failure to act and the police sending out a tweet saying, we're looking to engage with these people. You don't engage with people who are shouting about raping and killing Jewish people.
It was absolutely foul. It was an act of racist provocation, plain and simple. And it wasn't just that that kind of motorcade, if you like, in Finchley Road over the weekend. There was also the synagogue in Norwich, which was defaced with anti-Semitic abuse and swastikas. There was, of course, the march in London where there was a giant inflatable caricature of a hook nose and horns.
Oh, right in view of Jeremy Corbyn, by the way, as he was speaking.
Who keeps just accidentally ending up in close proximity to anti-Semites or anti-Semitic imagery. But there we go. I think we need to take this very, very seriously because this is not being pro-Palestinian. This is being anti-Semitic. And there is a tendency on the parts of these racists, whenever the Israel-Palestine conflict flares up, to basically just use it as an excuse to go after Jewish people. Yeah. And it's something which we, as a society, I don't think have ever really got to grips with. This flares up time and again. And I think really just over the weekend with that particular clip doing the rounds on social media, a lot of people were confronted with something that Jewish people in this country have been living with for a very long time. So hopefully we've got more chance to tackle it now that reality has been made clear.
It really has. I know a lot of the Jewish families around my way are absolutely, really, really very, very scared. Please do not be scared. We will stand with you as a nation. We will not allow this to happen. This has got to